Hey everybody, welcome back. Steve Stack with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. I find myself with a friend, Mr. Mike Jenkins, our resident woodworking tool historian, and we've had some conversation.
Yes, we have.
And we're going to dive in a little bit deeper. And you have a beautiful example, Mike, of a crown molder plane. You brought this along with you today, and we manufacture a product today.
Very similar.
Very similar. And take us through the components of this crown molder.
Okay, first of all, we have the body. This body is about 4.5 inches wide, probably 16 inches long. This is the wedge that holds the blade in place. The blade has a curvature. You can see that this cuts a big cove. When this plane was in production and was being used, it took a lot of effort to push this through a piece of wood. So these handles up here were to be used by the apprentice or the helper, and the helper would help pull this plane while the craftsman, the master, was pushing it and guiding it. And you can imagine, starting off with a piece of wood this thick or so, it took several passes to get this curvature. This is not an easy process. It would have taken several passes to get to this process. And Steve, you have this process modified in the 21st century.
We do, and I'm standing here listening and learning, and you referred to the actual cutter blade, the wedge.
Yes.
So to my understanding, to the bottom surface of this, to start out, you're just going to allow a minimal blade projection past the sole of this crown molder.
Just a touch, and every pass gets a little deeper, a little deeper, a little deeper.
Until you accomplish the full profile depth of, that's not a fun day at work.
That is a day's work.
Right? So jump ahead. We have a magnificent crew in the shop, and today these are done on motorized molders, okay, taking the place of this early piece of a crown molder. Very specific. Our molders today, we accomplish a profile with different cutter heads. So this cutter head is the exact profile of that knife, of this crown molding. Our guys in our grinding department, extremely sharp. They work off of a master template, so we have consistency in our run. The cutter heads are inserted into a molder head.
Circulating cylinder.
A cylinder that slides onto a shaper shaft, more or less, and spins at a very high rate RPM. They're stationary, per se, and the blank molding board passes underneath or over top of.
And that's the exception, because when this plane was used, this is a stationary piece, and this is what moves.
Just the opposite.
Yes.
Just the opposite. This machine has a nice little on and off switch. This machine has a very ugly on and off switch. But think back, how many miles of moldings that thing may have made.
Well, you think about a room 16 by 20, what you got, 16, 32, 42, 62, 80 feet of molding just to go around one room.
Yes, and a lot of the more well-to-do homes in the day, crown molding was throughout.
Yes.
The entire home. And it wasn't a singular piece of crown. It may have been a compound crown of 3 or 4 components.
Right. There was a lot of time spent just making the molding to make that room look pretty.
Just like us, we address our sawdust situation daily, and I'm sure they had a cleanup crew at the end of the day too, because they were making some shavings.
Right.
Right? Well, hey, Mike, thanks for sharing that with us. Folks, stay tuned. We're going to have some more conversation. We're going to talk about some other tools.
I look forward to it.
Having too much fun, Mike. Thank you.
You bet.